Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to your MRI report and our Week 10 breakdown of the games. I'm brought to you by the DWZ Patreon. It's patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone, and we are here with Dr. Kyle, board-certified doctor of physical therapy. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, Matty. How are you?
Living the dream. The Lions won on a last-second field goal. 16 seconds is an eternity for Matthew Stafford. It was a good week for fantasy in general, for me at least. How about you?
I had a pretty good fantasy week. Got some important wins in some leagues, probably one or two that have officially been kicked out of playoff contention. But, the ones that have been in the longest are the ones that matter the most, not necessarily the ones that win me the most. And I had some big wins there, most likely. Some of the jury is still out. Good fantasy, good betting week. You'll have to listen to the Fabulous Big Bet live this Wednesday or when it is released Thursday morning if you want to hear about the big bet recap. Otherwise, here we are. We are cruising through the NFL season right now.
Yeah, didn't you guys go for 4 for 4 in your big bets? Or something? I don't want to ruin it, but you guys did really well this week.
Memphis, I think, did really well with the prop. I don't know. I know my big bet hit. I don't know if Memphis's did. I forget what his was. I think his was the Broncos Raiders over, and I don't remember what the over was. So that might not have hit.
Yeah. So we had some start of the weeks last week that didn't go so well. I think that our quarterbacks didn't do well. I might have said to sit Matthew Stafford against the Washington Redskins. That was a mistake. But I did tell you DeAndre Swift was a start of the week, and DeAndre Swift had a heck of a game, dude. He had a receiving touchdown, 80 yards rushing and over 60 yards receiving, I believe, or 40 yards receiving. And that's the first time a Lions running back has done that since Billy Sims as a rookie.
Wow. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, I love Swift, and I think he's only going to gain steam the second half of the year. I was also sitting Stafford this week, wrong there, but I also had a Mark Andrews sit that was he didn't find pay dirt, but then of course Watson was a sit, and the Houston and Cleveland wide receivers were definitely all sit worthy in that stinker of a close game, very close game, good. But a stinker from a stats or fantasy perspective for sure.
I was stuck into playing T. Higgins, and boy, was I happy that I was stuck into playing him because he had a heck of a game for a rookie against that Steelers defense. He caught a nice slant for a touchdown. He had over 100 yards against that defense. He was Burrow's security blanket, and that's nice to see going forward for a rookie. Instead of seeing Tyler Boyd be the security blanket against a harsh defense, it's T. Higgins. So that's nice to see. But speaking about Burrow, man, he might never get that support he needs. Like, his owner won't even build an indoor practice facility, yet a high school built a practice facility in Ohio, the same state. Moeller High School built an indoor facility for COVID, but the Bengals won't. What do you think about that?
Look, I'm not surprised. The number of times I've heard Memphis talk about how trash the Cincinnati organization is, like as talented as Burrow could be and as well as they may draft this year and next year and everything will look nice and pretty for Burrow in the short term, they might just be the Bengals. And, perhaps if he ended up in a better organization, he would have more staying power. So, obviously there's still a lot to figure out there, but yeah, Cincinnati Bengals, until they change what's going on with the higher ups, I think there's going to be a cap or a glass ceiling on what Burrow's really able to do. And look, it may not really matter from a fantasy perspective ultimately, but just interesting to think about for sure.
It might just be from a win and loss perspective and a Super Bowl, never winning a Super Bowl perspective. But, fantasy-wise, I think Burrow's going to be okay.
Of course.
But a quarterback who gets a lot of hate who shouldn't is Lamar Jackson. He played in a monsoon, and he put up, I think, over 300 or 400 yards, and he had 2 total touchdowns. Who's been really bad against the Patriots who doesn't get hate?
Who, Matty?
Your man, Josh Allen. Josh Allen's put up stinkers against the Patriots, but everyone just brushes it off like, he's okay. He's Josh Allen. But Lamar Jackson puts up a nice game in a monsoon, and people are like, Lamar Jackson lost them the game. I don't think that's the case. I think that Bill Belichick just knows how to game plan really well, in monsoon games, and he just took away the clock.
Yeah. Yeah, Lamar had 250 passing yards and 55 rushing yards. It took him 11 carries to get 55 rushing yards, so that's that's a good clip for a running back. But from what we expect from Lamar, but I agree, and I think the same can be said for Bill is good at scheming against familiarity, and he's now seen Josh Allen in probably 4 or 5, maybe six contests since he entered the league, and so look, everybody wants to jump on a hot take or a bandwagon as quickly as emphatically as possible. So
yeah. And you know what a quarterback said after a game? Tua Tagovailoa said, "Oh, I didn't expect the NFL to be this easy." He didn't put up that great of a stat line, but he had a good game. They won the game against the Chargers. He's won 2 in a row as a starting quarterback. Miami has a heck of a defense. Their coach is amazing. Brian Flores is a heck of a hire, man. The NFL does look easy for Tua, man. I don't know. It seems like he's playing well for a left-handed quarterback, and he's rolling out of the pocket, making throws, making plays. He missed Jakeem Grant for what would have been a spectacular highlight. But he definitely has looked like a stud quarterback and someone that you could trust on your fantasy team going forward. Yeah,
and funny to didn't think the NFL would be this easy. It helps when you have a really good defense. So I'm stoked. I got in my my dynasty rebuild. I got Herbert and Tua. Those are my QBs right now. So I'm excited that both of them have showed their worth already. I was not expecting, I think back at some of the moves I made in the offseason thinking, rookie quarterbacks coming into this season are probably not going to be a thing. And I was sold off Big Ben, sold off Kareem Hunt, sold off Gibson to get picks and get younger. And here I am. I'm like, fuck, if I kept all those guys, if I still I traded Gibson and Big Ben for Cortland Sutton in the preseason. And so Cortland Sutton ends up on the IR, and I am out 2 assets who would be getting me. Big Ben's been a QB 1 or 2 probably every week, and Gibson's been. I'm sure you're going to talk about Gibson at some point, but so pump for Tua and Herbert's future, and folks, don't get too short-sighted with your dynasty, and don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Just like we shouldn't jump to conclusions too quickly about a Lamar Jackson game or a Josh Allen game.
Jumping to conclusions too quickly. I put up a Twitter poll this week, and I think I might have tagged you in it. I said Antonio Gibson or Jonathan Taylor strictly for dynasty purposes. Jonathan Taylor won the poll 56%, Antonio Gibson 44%. I was on the Antonio Gibson side myself, being a big truther of Antonio Gibson. I think he's one of the most talented backs of this class. The fact that he can jump cut twice in a row. He had a jump cut against the Detroit Lions where he continued to just jump cut against people, and he just got the open hole because of it. And then he runs into Cam Sims' ass. I mean, it was a nice run, but he just could not turn his head fast enough to see his own guy, and he ran into the blocker. But he had open room to run. This dude looks insane.
Let me ask you this, because I know you're the biggest Antonio Gibson lover in the Patreon. Okay, so you literally just said he could jump cut back to back, but then ran into a guy's butt. Should we not care so much about his ability to jump cut? Because guys can be successful in the NFL without jump cutting, but if they're continuously, butt fumbling or running into guys' butts, maybe he
doesn't run. I mean, the thing is, he ran into it because he did so many cuts in a row that he turned his head and then he saw his guy. It wasn't a vision thing. His vision looks really nice. He does some zone concepts for the Washington Redskins. And he has good vision, man. He does a Le'Veon Bell little stutter step, and then he hits the hole. And that's what I like to see from a running back, man. He definitely has good vision for a running back. I tweeted out, Antonio Gibson is a running back during the game because, people don't like Antonio Gibson. So he had, I think, 24 points or 22.4 points in a PPR league. He is a good pass catcher. J.D. McKissick had 15 targets, though. So maybe if you take J.D. McKissick away and Antonio Gibson's there in the future, you could be seeing 10 to 15 target games from Antonio Gibson once in a while. But, that's Alex Smith as quarterback, though.
But what if the opposite happens and they keep McKissick around And what if they draft a running back in this draft class coming up because they don't believe Gibson? Because Gibson has yet to what? Eclipse. He hasn't eclipsed 17
He has eclipsed.
Touches.
He's eclipsed 100 yards though.
Yeah, but I don't think they see him as their 3-down guy ever, right?
No, he's not had third down carries that often. But, he did have 20 attempts against the Dallas Cowboys, 13 attempts against the Lions. But against the Giants, he was a little quiet. But he's gotten 7 touchdowns this year, and he has 436 yards rushing. He's looking like DeAndre Swift's stat line, I believe. DeAndre Swift has put up 331 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, 70 attempts. So 70 attempts versus 103 attempts. So, if you give Swift a little more opportunity, he would have better numbers. And he looks really good. Swift is insanely talented. Matt Patricia's holding him back. Fire Matt Patricia. He's a clown.
Mm-hmm.
But, speaking about clowns, Baker Mayfield, he's he's getting the ball taken out of his hands because they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt back. I don't think he's fantasy relevant.
I mean, in Superflex, I'm sure he still will be at times. Like this game, we expected this from this game. That over/under moved 8 points, I think, from the open to the close Sunday morning. It was there was a delay because of the weather, and Houston's offense never got off the ground, so the Browns never had to take the ball off the ground. But let's see. I'm going to just do my quick Cleveland Browns schedule and see if there's some potential for some negative game scripts going forward. They got the Eagles next week. Who knows what the Eagles – I know you're going to touch on Wentz at some point, but who knows who the Eagles actually are right now. Then they get the Jaguars. Maybe there's a potential for some points there, but I don't know. Then they get the Titans. Maybe that's your negative game script, and Baker's relevant there. Ravens, Giants. Yeah, he might be irrelevant the rest of their Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's what's their record?
They're doing okay. They're looking outside of the playoffs though.
They're 6-3 right now, which is
third
in the division. Yeah. When there's 4 teams, so they're on the playoff bubble. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 4 teams at 6-3. That would be the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th teams in, and then it's a drop off to 4 and 5 for the Patriots, 3 and 6 for the Broncos. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a couple. If those the Patriots going to win 9 games this year, they're 4 and 5.
I think that Bill Belichick will coach his ass off and try to. Who knows? Because they have they have Cam Newton at quarterback. When Jacoby Myers can throw a ball better than Cam Newton, it's kind of sad. Yeah. So it comes down to game planning, and he's one of the best game plans, and he makes the best script you can for a team. So he's going to put his team in position to win games. It just comes down to execution.
Yeah.
And that's what Cam Newton said in his post-game conference. He said, I've never seen a guy who can win more than Bill Belichick because of his game scripts. So
Smart.
he's a very smart guy. And, talk about game scripts. Seattle, if you take DK Metcalf out of the equation with a good corner like Patrick Peterson, like a Jalen Ramsey, he does not produce. And it showed. Like, he did not have any points against the Cardinals that was relevant. He didn't have points against the Rams.
Rams,
yeah. So what is Russell Wilson without DK? Russell Wilson's a life preserver without DK. He's trying to keep this team afloat. It looks like the cover 3 scheme has been abused by teams now because they figured it out. Pete Carroll's not adjusting because he's an older coach. I don't know if Pete Carroll's going to stick around in Seattle. They've had 3 first-round picks now that have basically been busts. Rashad Penny, this linebacker out of TCU who we haven't seen play, and I don't even know who they took this last year. It's just been rough, man. It's been bad from a GM perspective. It's been bad from Pete Carroll's perspective. But Russ
overpaid for Jamal Adams potentially too.
Yeah, I think that was a bad trade for them. They paid 2 firsts for a safety. Russell Wilson
can't do anything in the passing game. Jamal Adams
he's like landing
cover. Yeah, Jamal Adams is not a a cover safety or an over the top safety. He likes to get down close to the line of scrimmage, and that's not like this yet. People are just putting up points like everybody's thrown against Seattle Bills. The Bills didn't even try and ever run the ball against them 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I do wonder if it's almost like it's probably too early on, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury as a coach and quarterback pair to determine is Kyler Murray giving Cliff Kingsbury his job security. I think we could say that Russell Wilson has probably given Pete Carroll his job security, and the Legion of Boom back in the day when that defense was humming. It didn't matter what was going on the offensive side of the ball. But it seems like, I think it could be a potential changing of the guard in Seattle. Like, Russ was looking like an MVP candidate at the beginning of this year, and that's slowly slipping away, as are the Seahawks Super Bowl chances. They're losing important divisional games. Those ones are important this year.
And, Jared Goff was my start of the week at quarterback. He put up 13.5 in a PPR league because he had passing yards. The Rams game scripted the running game in the red zone because they figured Seattle was going to try to adjust to the Buffalo Bills and try to lock down in the passing game. But, Malcolm Brown decided to take in 2 touchdowns. Darrell Henderson had 1, and they beat the Seahawks pretty handily, man. Like, it was kind of a close game, but that's because of Russell Wilson. Like I said, he's the life preserver. Should be his nickname, because he's going to save jobs.
Yep. Oh, quick correction on what I was talking about as far as standings go earlier. I was only looking at 3 divisions in the AFC and missed the AFC South. The Colts and the Titans are both 6-3 as well. So we have 9 teams with 6 or more wins in the AFC right now. So that's going to be tough sledding for the Patriots to catch that pace. But we could see a team miss the playoffs with 10 wins in the AFC, and the winner of the NFC East division could have 6 wins. The Eagles have 3, and the Giants have 3 right now. Cowboys are technically not out of it. This is crazy.
The Chiefs, on average, the strength of schedule is probably the easiest they've ever played this season so far. The team's like average winning percentage, I think, is like a 0.4 that they're playing. So the Chiefs are just destroying teams. They lost to the Raiders. Is that a concern for you, man? Like, for Patrick Mahomes and everyone, because he isn't having a crazy season, but he's having an MVP season still. He's not just having a Patrick Mahomes season though.
Yeah, I mean, look, divisional games, that'll happen. Like, I mostly I try and stay away from them for betting purposes, because if there's ever a team that's going to upset, I think, and have a big have Mahomes somewhat figured out, I think it's going to come in division. Looking back at that schedule, they had just come off of beating the Ravens and the Patriots, and then probably looking ahead to the Bills potentially. It was also a short week. They played the Patriots on a Monday. And then maybe looking ahead to that Bills team that I think at that time they were 4-0 and then lost to the Titans the week that the Chiefs lost to the Raiders. Yeah, I mean, I think we have to give John Gruden some credit too. He has managed to make this Raiders team very competitive with Derek Carr still at quarterback and a not so great defense. So, I wouldn't say concerned, but look, it's the NFL. There's a lot of parity. Things are changing every week. Don't get too overly confident.
The Raiders beat Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes this season. They lost to Tom Brady. They lost to Josh Allen. They beat the Browns. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Broncos. They are destroying their division, it looks like, from a standpoint. They have not lost a game in their division. The Raiders, John Gruden is coaching a very good season, man. I would put him up for Coach of the Year this year based on what he's doing. He beat Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, that's rare.
I think they play them again this week. If they win that game, they'll be sitting at 7-3 with 4 wins in the division and no losses, and the Chiefs will be 8-2. There's no lock there for the Chiefs.
No. I think it's at home too for the Raiders, but the home winning percentage this year is under 50% for the home team. So you never know what's going to happen. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to take some vengeance out on the Raiders. Chiefs probably win that game. But on our flex cast, I said that the Patriots were going to beat the Ravens, and that was right. So that was a hot take and a hot call by me.
Hey,
I didn't put any money on it.
I'm gonna call you out for a hot take. You were like, this looks like a Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown touchdown week, and I put him in a very important lineup. And then as I saw the weather getting crappy in New England, I'm like, nah. And I had DJ Moore on the bench, so I'm like, all right, DJ Moore is going in for Hollywood Brown. And I ended up that's my home league. That's my home league keeper league. And I was going up against the team in second place, and I was third place, and I ended up winning by like 4 points. So my buddy Dan is probably
what a terrible call by me.
It happens.
It was bad.
It was too hot. It was there. I think you're like the kid who like saw the ice cream and you just immediately was like ice cream without sitting
too high to the sun.
Yeah, exactly. When in reality, it's like, this is an easy fade Hollywood Brown week with bad weather in New England, and he's a downfield guy. Like,
yeah, definitely. The way I had seen it though, when I called it, was Mark Andrews would get taken out of the equation. I thought Hollywood Brown would get some more shots, but no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But speaking about that division, in the Patriots division, Sam Darnold, man, he's not staying healthy. He's not playing games. Joe Flacco, the Dragon, is coming in and playing games. Why is this? Is this mono? Is this still the mono that's taking effect?
Who knows at this point? But it doesn't. I mean, look, if the Jets are going to move on from Darnold, you would still want to make him look as good as possible this year and increasing his trade value. You trotting Joe Flacco out there. I can't wait to listen to the Dream Preview this week and hear those guys talk about. Because they're always talking about like, all right, if Mahomes starts and then, or if the Chiefs go from Mahomes starting to whoever their backup is starting, it's like a 6 or 7 or 8 point difference in Vegas. Like, if the Chiefs are expected to win by 14 and then Mahomes is not playing and this other guy is, it's like the spread changes to 7 or 6, something like that. And I wonder if Flacco is now worth more points than Darnold is, which is just pathetic.
Who knows, man? This is something that we're bringing up because we don't know. Like, who knows with Sam Darnold? What's wrong with him? We can't say because nobody knows. They won't tell us. No. So that's all we have to say about Sam Darnold because there's nothing else to say. But speaking about Jets players, Jamison Crowder has more points in like 5 games he's played than Marquise Brown in like 8 or 9 games that Marquise Brown has played. So that just shows Marquise Brown has had a terrible season. I would be buying Marquise Brown in dynasty leagues because his value is going to be a lot lower, and he had a little under 600 yards as a rookie. That's really good for a rookie production, and it's a good indicator of success in the NFL. But speaking about rookies, DeAndre Swift, again, I'm going to go back to him because I love him so much. He looks –
We're just going to call this – This is officially the this is officially the DeAndre Swift Antonio Gibson show.
Yes, that is my guys. Swift looks like a 20% better version than Josh Jacobs does to me from watching him on the field. It's a hot take there, but that's what he looks like to me when he plays. He's so dynamic.
Yeah, no, I told you I just moved Zeke for DeAndre Swift and Sterling Shepard in the league, and it was great. Like, that's a league where I'm contending. I'm also very young, and I got to move on from Zeke, who I think is going to just get worse this season, and his value will probably never return to what it is or what it was. And so I get DeAndre Swift. I get more depth at receiver to compete this year, but also like I'm that's like if you were in a rebuild to move Zeke for Swift and Shepard where you're not contending, that's also a good move. So I was pretty pumped about that. And I think the Lions, I forget where I read it today, but it's like Swift is looking like this year's Miles Sanders, where you had the vet in his way for the first half of the season and slowly he chipped away. I think it took a Jordan Howard injury last year. I think it just took enough Adrian Peterson 1-yard runs for the coaching staff to realize, okay, let's get Swift the ball. So Yeah, love Swift this year. Love him for the immediate future too.
Yeah, I hate Adrian Peterson on the Lions. It just doesn't make sense to me. Let's go to some injuries. We're going to go to our MRI report. This is your MRI, the most reliable injury report with the board-certified Dr. Kyle. All right, let's go into some names. Drew Brees got knocked out of the game. What happened to him?
So it looks like, set for an MRI today. Don't know the results there, but they're already talking about him missing some time. So it could already be Jameis Winston year. Jameis Winston season. I don't know why I said year. That's not how we talk here, folks. It's almost Jameis
the year
Winston
of Winston.
Yeah. So interesting what'll happen there. I was look here. I'm taking victory laps where I can, especially when it wins me and the listeners' money. I was on this Saints team laying 9.5 against the Niners. Up until Brees' injury, I think the Saints, arguably the best team in the league, from top to bottom, coaching staff. I loved them, and they've notoriously got off to a slow start. I meant to tweet a couple screenshots of me using the RotoViz Splits app to look at the first 4 games versus the second 4 games for both the Niners and the Saints. And it's really a tale of 2 seasons for both of them. The Saints really gaining steam the last 4 and the 49ers losing steam, mostly due to injuries, but they didn't really get much healthier prior to this game. But now without Brees potentially for a couple of weeks, is Winston going to be good enough where, look at what Teddy Bridgewater did in Brees' absence last year. The Saints kept rolling. I don't know if the Saints will be able to do that with Jameis Winston, gunslinging all over the field. But look, he got his eyes fixed last year. As somebody who is as invested in knowing about the human body and how it relates to performance, I do truly believe that, I don't know what Winston's sight was prior, but these elite athletes generally have elite vision. Like, everything is elite. Like, I have no doubt that it could be a major game changer. So yeah, very interested to see how Winston steps in for the Saints, and if it'll be a situation like Teddy last year where they can continue to hum along, or it'll be like, oh, we got to get him out of there as soon as we can. Which, for playoff purposes, Brees, 41 years old, like, wouldn't you want to keep him on the sideline as long as you can to get him as healthy as you can? So, big implications here. And then staying in New Orleans, Traquan Smith was concussed. So, guys, broken record over here, concussion, could play next week. Going to have to keep an eye on it, look for setbacks. If he's not practicing by Friday, then question marks, but he should be practicing in some form probably by Thursday to be on track to play the following week. And then
we have a couple irrelevant running backs for fantasy purposes, unless you're needing them to flex. It's Chris Thompson on the Jags with a back injury. He left the game after getting a concussion. He was not diagnosed with a concussion. He comes back, gets a back injury. Yeah. Unlucky. It's unlucky for him. And then Tyler Ervin of the Green Bay Packers suffered a rib injury and didn't come back. I'm not too concerned about these guys because you have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, and then you have James Robinson. So these guys are stuck behind studs anyways. So hopefully they get healthy for their sake.
What's crazy is you just mentioned Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones ahead of Tyler Ervin. A.J. Dillon was a goddamn second-round pick. I'm so glad I was never on that hype train and didn't let any of the dynasty guys talk me into buying him in leagues.
Now, let me tell you.
Shut up. Aaron Jones is not going anywhere. Jamal Williams he might not go anywhere either. If that guy – I don't know if you've heard that guy's interviews, but he would probably sign a contract for like $6 if they sold it the right way to him.
He loves Green Bay. He loves playing for Green Bay. I love the Packers draft class. It's probably my favorite draft class. I am a Lions fan, though. The Packers had the best draft, I think, of all time. Getting a quarterback that's going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 years, probably. So that just made no sense from their standpoint. Another injury that was huge. Matthew Stafford suffered a thumb injury, but he came back and played. Yeah. And then the MRI diagnosis, I think, came back negative, and that he's going to be okay.
X-ray came back negative. I don't know if there's been an MRI yet, but it does sound – it already sounds like it's not too serious, but we'll keep an eye. I think we have a lot of patrons in sleeper leagues, guys. Like the sleeper app is great. Like that's where I generally go for my first line of information as far as injuries goes. And there was news 5 hours ago. #Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford had tests on his thumb after the game, but source said there was not much concern going forward. X-rays negative, though he may be limited some this week. The initial belief is he won't miss game time. So that's sleeper word for word. So
yeah,
I don't think we're concerned with him.
And then Sleeper also said Teddy Bridgewater might not be out that long with a knee injury. He might come back this next week and play. It's not. They don't think it's serious, but they need to do a X-ray / MRI on it to make sure that he can play. What do you think about Teddy Bridgewater? Did you see the injury? I did not watch that game personally, but Teddy Bridgewater has been carrying his team. Without Teddy Bridgewater, the Carolina Panthers are going to lose. They're playing the Lions this next week, so maybe they rest Teddy Bridgewater and see if they can beat the Lions with Christian McCaffrey, because the running games just destroy the Lions.
I don't think McCaffrey's on track to play this week already. That's already
Mike Davis' turn. Yeah, that's looking bad for the Carolina Panthers if Teddy Bridgewater is not a go. Teddy Bridgewater is carrying that team, like I said. They need a quarterback in the offseason, though, because I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is the long-term thing. Because in the 2-minute drill, he's still checking down to running backs. He's not throwing down the field. It's just there's no sense of urgency from Teddy Bridgewater.
Matty, it's in his name, Bridge. He's a bridge quarterback. He's just trying to
bridge
get
over water.
The old regime to a new regime. And honestly, look, if from a real football perspective, like why would you want to outperform your expectations this year? Obviously, you want to look like you're better than your expectations, but the goal is to get better for next year if you want to compete next year. So maybe Bridgewater and McCaffrey being banged up is best for them long term. I guess it's not good that McCaffrey's banged up probably, but he's at least saving mileage on his legs, and you probably want that expensive mileage for when you're going to have a shot at a Super Bowl. And I don't think your shot at a Super Bowl is with Teddy Bridgewater under center. But, imagine if, they draft a guy next year and he does anything remotely close to what Herbert, Tua, or Burrow is doing this year. I think that whatever young quarterback, if the Panthers go quarterback in the first round, I know we're going on a bit of a tangent, but I think we talked like that. That's what the show is going to become today.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so the Panthers are 3-7 right now. They're still better than everybody in the NFC East, but 3 wins. If they, let's pace that out. They're, the 5-11 probably going to finish. Win 2 of the next 6, maybe 1. 4 or 5 wins. You're pretty much a shoo-in for a top 10 pick, and I'm assuming they still have their first round pick. So we're going to talk about this incoming draft class of quarterbacks, like. What quarterback could land there in the top 10?
I got a name for you.
Let's hear it.
Zach Wilson from BYU, dual threat quarterback. Pair him with Christian McCaffrey and see success. He's really good at throwing.
Okay, and
I love that combo.
We already talked about organization. Like, we already talked about Burrow maybe being in a crap organization. We also talked about Herbert maybe being in an organization where he's, he might not land an awesome coach. I think it's still possible there, more likely than Cincinnati. That seems to be a dumpster fire. But if this guy Wilson ends up in Carolina, how quickly could his value be higher than Burrow and Herbert's? Just because he's simply in the best environment. Like, environment is so important in the NFL. Just food for thought there.
Yeah, David Tepper is a great owner. He bought the Carolina Panthers this last year. He's a risk analyst, I believe, in the stock market or something. He does a lot of business. So, he's a guy who knows how to operate a team. He knows how to operate risk. He knows how to do stuff. So he hired a good coach with Matt Rule. He took a risk there hiring him. They got Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator. If they can pair Zach Wilson with Joe Brady, I could see a lot of success as a rookie. Even like Trey Lance, if he fell to them, which I don't think he will, he could have success there. But there's some good quarterbacks in the later tiers of the quarterback list that could end up in Carolina and become a quarterback that you draft in the first round of your rookie drafts. I mean, this year is the year to draft quarterbacks. It looks like. So I've been trading a lot of players for picks this last week in my rebuilds, just so I can shore up quarterback position. I'm going to take as many quarterbacks as possible in Dynasty.
Yeah, this past offseason was my first Dynasty offseason, and I definitely learned the hard way how to spend some first-round picks. Luckily, it was in like my cheapest league, and I was very much like, I almost don't even want to be in the league anymore, but now I do. I have 3 firsts going into this upcoming class, but I had my first last season, and I used it on Keyshawn Vaughn, I think, while Herbert and Tua might have still been on the board. I felt good at quarterback. Like I have Watson, Wentz, and Daniel Jones. So, it was like, all right, let's just go based on needs. Let's, get a running back who could potentially help me be competitive this year. Obviously didn't have it with Keyshawn Vaughn. But yeah, the quarterback value, like I got Tua at 107 last year. Like who are you taking ahead of Tua in a rookie draft if you do that knowing what you got now? Like, okay,
maybe DeAndre Swift.
Maybe. And it was like everybody was so excited about Jonathan Taylor and Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 1 and 2. And then I'll look. And these I don't know when your dynasty drafts are, but like they're not long after the real NFL draft.
No.
Like get your goddamn value and like figure it out later. Like who cares if you got 6 fucking quarterbacks? Like if you got 6 quarterbacks, you have so much leverage, and you'll figure it out. Like I got Wayne Gallman sitting in my lineup in a league where I don't even care if I win, and he's what? Like he's the
RB3.
He's got 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games, and I couldn't get a third for him before this week. Like, and that league is it's a really fun league. It's my first dynasty league, and we have a group mate. And yesterday it was just like Gallman touchdown, guys, and then nobody said anything. And then the next comment was another Gallman touchdown. So just reminding these guys, like, get your quarterbacks, and you can figure out running back and wide receiver. Pretty not easily, but it's much more plug and play throughout the season than quarterback, and then tight end and tight end premium for sure. But I'm not paying up for a tight end until I know I'm competing, and it's not. I'm not trying to buy Kittle right now. I don't think, because
I just bought Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Do you want to know the price I paid?
Let's hear it.
Zach Ertz, Harrison Bryant, Devin Duvernay, and probably the 201. A lot.
I don't think that's a lot, though. I think you got to steal.
Hawkinson is going to be a tight end 1, I think, for like multiple years. So,
yeah, I sold him. I sold him recently, and I still don't know how I feel about it. It's in a league where I'm like, I had him and Gesicki, and I still like Gesicki's long-term potential, and I just a lot of question marks at quarterback for me, like Gardner Minshew, Jimmy G, Mitchell Trubisky, and Drew Lock were my quarterbacks at the time. And like, I think all of them were injured. So, I know we talk about buying Carson Wentz. Maybe I still think he's a little bit of a buy, but I don't know how long his leash is from a real or fantasy perspective right now. Yeah, it's Matty putting up the field goal post real close to each other.
They put in Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it's you got to wonder, like, will they give him a good shot? Like, the guy needs a healthy O-line. Any quarterback needs – we talk about environment. He needs a healthy O-line. He needs guys to throw to. He needs to develop rapport with these guys and consistency. So I think Wentz is still a buy. So, I sold Hawk and Darrell Henderson for Wentz and Logan Thomas in that team I drafted this year, and I was not drafting for this year because of the uncertainty of COVID. I was like, I'm gonna just stay young, and then of course all of my guys like injured. Like I already mentioned, Drew Lock, Gardner Minshew, and Jimmy G were my 3 quarterbacks I drafted. It's an FFPC league, and you can only draft 3 in the startups. And then AJ Brown has missed time, DJ Chark has missed time, Saquon Barkley, Tariq Cohen. Like all these guys just decimated with injury. So I was like, you know what? Hawks value was good. It's probably going up, but I think to get Wentz, who I still think has, quarterback 1, not quarterback 1 overall, but QB1 potential. He's got 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns on the year. I digress. How do we get to this point?
We've been on a tangent. Let's talk about wind. I think I want to talk about wind in games and people overreacting to wind. You asked the question, should I start Christian Kirk or DJ Chark? And I said DJ Chark. And then I regressed after people said, no, Christian Kirk because he's not playing in a windy game. DJ Chark had more fantasy points, I believe, by like 2. But I think the wind is an overrated factor. I think people oversaturate the fact that it's there. I think it's more for the over-under than it is for fantasy statistics.
Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. I'm trying to pull up that box score right now just because I want to know.
I think the Cleveland game was the biggest game affected by wind. You saw a lot less passing touchdowns. You saw a lot of shorter passes. But like Jacksonville had a windy game. And
so Jake Luton, he 18 of 35 and 169 yards. What did Kyler Murray do? Like, if you're looking at the quarterback and what they did, like, what would you rather try and be a part of? DJ Chark went 4 for 56. Like, 9.6 points. It was like we talked about a Keelan Cole week, but mostly because he had a punt return touchdown or a kick return touchdown. He went 5 of 47. Like, that's not great yardage or great reception totals. And then if we go over to the Cardinals.
Let's see who the Bills played this week, because the Bills always play in bad weather, and Josh Allen had a QB1 game. They played the Cardinals at the Cardinals, so that's good weather for Josh Allen. That makes sense as to why he had a good game. Aaron Rodgers in a cold weather game had a great game. He was a QB5 so far. Lamar Jackson in a monsoon is a QB7. Like Daniel Jones at New York, which New York had good weather. He was a QB9. He had a scamper. He had like a 40-yard scamper for a touchdown. It looked nice. Yeah. And then you got players like Tua Tagovailoa playing in Miami. They probably had beautiful weather there. So then you go down to the list. Deshaun Watson's the QB15. Joe Burrow's the QB16. I think it affects QBs more than it affects wide receivers.
And like
then
a
again,
lot of the
correlation.
Well, and a lot of the guys you mentioned, maybe not actually, but like guys who can move the ball with their feet as quarterbacks, I think they are less affected, obviously, because Lamar Jackson can still, the wind isn't necessarily going to affect his ability to run. Same with Daniel Jones. I think those guys have, and in general. But okay, so if I told you that in bad weather, quarterbacks who run the ball have a safer floor, like remove the weather part, like we know that in good weather games, quarterbacks that have a good rushing game, like they also have a safer floor. So like the weather probably doesn't. I think there's different tipping points for that one.
I think it depends on how high the wind is.
Yeah, I've heard the Vegas guys or the Dream Preview guys. I think they look at like 20 miles per hour is their threshold. Where if you have 15-mile-an-hour winds, like that's probably not enough to really affect. But 30.
But you don't think quarterbacks have practiced in this weather before and have played in this weather and know how to adjust their arm to the wind, and like, because the wind will take the ball as well. Like, I think that quarterbacks have a easier time with wind at their backs instead of throwing it into the wind, because they can just loft the ball downfield. Yeah. So sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts. If it's going sideways, maybe it hurts more. Like, you might want to look at the direction of the wind.
Well, you remember the show Sports Science? Like, that would be a cool one to see. Like, okay, if a guy throws a tight spiral, like, who threw the tightest spiral back in your day? Or like Brett Favre could throw the ball like 60 miles per hour. Put bruises on his wide receiver's chest. Like, let's get some sports science on different wind directions, like wind at your back, wind coming straight at you, wind coming across the field. Like, how much does it actually move a ball? Like, where does it matter? Because maybe if the wind is 30 miles per hour, it only matters beyond 30 yards. Like maybe there's some correlation there. I don't know. That would be there. That's
maybe
my
they
idea.
can get Jamarcus Russell. He's looking for a job, right?
He's probably.
So yeah, I don't know how much the weather has to do with it. I think it's more so when the wind is going sideways when it affects the game.
Field goals for sure.
Yeah, for kickers, it definitely affects them. You should watch for your kickers if you have them in your fantasy leagues, which I don't.
Well, and if a line moves like 6 points is a very significant amount for an over under to move. Like, okay, how many field goals are in a football game generally? 2 or 3?
Yeah, about that.
Like, I would say probably somewhere between 2 and 3 is probably an average game for field goals. There's a stat. Maybe I'll look that one up. I'll do some nerdy data analysis for you guys. And maybe that's why the line moves so much is for field goals, and it really doesn't have to do with quarterbacks and receivers and throwing the ball so much.
Yeah, like the only game I think that was affected was even like I think it might have been Baltimore because of monsoon, but Cleveland and Houston I think was the only game that was really affected because Ben Roethlisberger put up a heck of a game against the Bengals. He had the QB2 performance, and it was windy. Like he had a heck of a game. Like he scored right around Tom Brady's numbers, and Tom Brady put up godly numbers. Tom Brady took a whooping on the Carolina Panthers. He was mad about last week.
And that was Bengals Steelers went to 46 total. I don't know what that over under was this week. It's hard to project these divisional games for me. And I think that's generally true. Like we already talked about Chiefs Raiders, but let's see quickly what the kickers did there. Randy Bullock went 1 for 1, only 37 yards, so probably didn't matter there. And then Chris Boswell went 3 for 3 with a long of 45. Yeah.
But you'll definitely see teams go for it more on fourth down in windy games. I think it was the 49ers or some team that went for it on like 4th and 4 when they could have kicked the field goal, but the wind was like going against them, so they had to go for it, and it just made sense to go for it, like analytics wise. So you might see more teams go for it, which is better for fantasy purposes. If you're not playing with kickers, like you would rather have your team go for it and get a first down, and then you can get more yards. Yeah. So I don't know.
Houston missed a field goal yesterday, and Cleveland did not. So Houston went 1 for 1, and Cody Parkey went 1 for 1, 41-yarder. Yeah, well, that'd be interesting to look at.
Yeah, but that's our Week 10 breakdown. This is brought to you by the Dynasty Warzone Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone, and Viridian Global, where you can get our Dynasty Warzone merch. It's viridianglobal.com, and then you go to the Football Collective and choose Dynasty Warzone. We have some sweet swag over there. We're hoping to get some hats soon. We're just testing them right now. You have any shirts, Kyle?
No, yeah, I gotta update my wardrobe. I live in a 1-bedroom in New York City, so every decision I make about buying something is how much space is this going to take up. So I gotta purge some clothes before I add to them. But I think I'll be getting a hat. I also might low key. I love the Goat District goat hat. Grew up here. A fun fact about me: I had goats growing up for like 5 or 6 years. My dad's allergic to everything, so. No indoor pets. Though we ended up with guinea pigs at one point, but yeah. So we had pet goats. So the Goat District hat, like I might have to pull the trigger on that thing. That thing's pretty bad. Bad.
Yeah, bad. That's a good one.
Pretty bad.
But yeah, we're gonna end with that bad joke there. It's been a good week talking to you, man. I'll talk to you on Friday with our flex cast and our little injury updates if you're down.
For sure. But hopefully a higher hit rate this week.
Yeah, I mean, we both had a low hit rate. So we'll see you guys. Keep it fresh. Keep it simple. Hope you guys win your Week 11 matchups. Have a good one.